You take a pill for a headache. It's just a sugar pill. It has no medicine in it. But your headache gets better. How does that happen? Is it magic? Is it just in your head? This is the placebo effect, and it's one of the strangest, most powerful things in all of medicine. For a long time, it was a mystery, a curiosity, something doctors noticed but couldn't really explain. But now, science is starting to pull back the curtain. We're beginning to understand what's really going on. The answer isn't simple. It's not one thing. It's a mix of psychology, brain chemistry, and the very human need for hope and healing. So, can science explain the placebo effect? The short answer is yes. It's getting very close. The long answer is more interesting. It tells us a lot about our own bodies and the incredible power of our minds. It's not about fooling yourself. It's about your brain's ability to create its own medicine. Let's start with the basics. What is a placebo? It's anything that seems to be a real medical treatment but isn't. It could be a sugar pill, a saline injection, or even a sham surgery where a doctor makes an incision but doesn't actually do anything. The placebo effect is the positive change you experience after getting one of these fake treatments. It's important to be clear about something right away. The effect is real, the pain relief is real. The reduction in symptoms is real. It's not just people imagining they feel better. We can measure the changes, we can see them in brain scans, we can see them in hormone levels. The treatment is fake, but the outcome is genuine. There's also a dark twin to the placebo effect. It's called the nocebo effect. This is when a fake treatment causes negative side effects. If a doctor tells you a sugar pill might cause nausea, a certain percentage of people will actually start to feel nauseous. It works both ways. The expectation of harm can create harm, just as the expectation of healing can create healing. This is the first big clue. The placebo effect is deeply tied to what we expect to happen. This brings us to the psychological part of the puzzle. Our minds are prediction machines. We are constantly trying to figure out what will happen next. This is a survival skill. When it comes to medicine, this skill goes into overdrive. If a trusted doctor in a white coat gives you a pill and says, "This will relieve your pain," your brain starts to build a powerful expectation. It starts to predict pain relief. And in many cases, that prediction becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your brain doesn't just sit back and wait for the pill to do its work. It actively prepares for the expected relief. It starts to change its own operations. This isn't a conscious choice. You don't decide to feel less pain. Your brain's deeper, more automatic systems take over. Expectation is the trigger. It sets a whole cascade of events in motion. Studies have shown that the stronger your expectation, the stronger the placebo effect. If you're told a painkiller is very expensive and new, the placebo version of it will work better than when you're told is a cheap, generic alternative. The story we tell ourselves about the treatment matters. A lot. There's another psychological force at play here. It's called conditioning. You've probably heard of Pavlov's dogs. The Russian scientist Ivan Pavlov rang a bell every time he fed his dogs. Soon, the dogs started to salivate just at the sound of the bell, even when there was no food. They had been conditioned. Their bodies had learned to associate the bell with food. Our bodies do the same thing with medicine. Think about your own life. You get a headache. You take a pill. The pill has active ingredients that block pain signals. The headache goes away. You do this again and again. Over time, your brain learns a powerful association. The act of taking a pill, the ritual of it, becomes linked with pain relief. The pill bottle, the water, the act of swallowing. All these things become triggers, like Pavlov's bell. So what happens when you're given a sugar pill that looks exactly like the real one? Your brain doesn't know the difference. It sees the same triggers. It follows the same learned pattern. It hears the bell and starts to salivate. In this case, it experiences the ritual of medicine and starts to activate its own pain relief systems. It's a learned automatic response. This is why the placebo effect can be so reliable. It's not just a fuzzy feeling of hope. It's a deeply ingrained biological habit. These two things, expectation and conditioning, are the psychological engines of the placebo effect. They create the mental state necessary for the body to start changing, but what is actually changing? What's happening inside our brains and bodies that turns a sugar pill into real relief? This is where we move from psychology to neurobiology. This is where we can see the physical evidence. The first major breakthrough in understanding the placebo effect came from studying pain. The pain is the symptom that responds most strongly to placebos. For decades, scientists wondered why. In the 1970s, they discovered that the brain produces its own natural painkillers. They're called endorphins. The name comes from endogenous morphine, meaning morphine that is made inside the body. Endorphins are opioids, just like morphine or codeine. They bind to the same receptors in the brain and spinal cord, blocking the transmission of pain signals. This discovery led to a brilliant experiment. Scientists took a group of patients who were responding well to a placebo painkiller. The placebo was working, they were feeling less pain. Then, the scientists gave them another drug called naloxone. And naloxone is an opioid blocker. It's a drug used to reverse opioid overdoses. It works by kicking opioids off their receptors, preventing them from having any effect. When the patients were given naloxone, something remarkable happened. The placebo effect vanished. Instantly, the pain came roaring back even though they were still taking the placebo. This was the smoking gun. It proved, beyond any doubt, that the placebo wasn't just a trick of the mind. The placebo was causing the brain to release its own powerful pain-killing chemicals. The expectation of relief was triggering a flood of natural morphine. The placebo effect, at least for pain, had a clear biological mechanism. It was the brain's own private pharmacy, unlocked by the power of belief. But it's not just about endorphins. As our tools for looking inside the brain have gotten better, we found other chemicals are involved too. Another key player is dopamine. Dopamine is often called the reward chemical. It's involved in motivation, pleasure, and focus. It's the chemical that says, hey, this is good. Pay attention. Do it again. Dopamine is also crucial for expectation. When you anticipate something good happening, whether it's eating a delicious meal or feeling pain relief, your brain releases a little bit of dopamine. This dopamine release helps shape your behavior and prepares you for the reward. In the context of the placebo effect, the expectation of feeling better seems to trigger the dopamine system. This is especially clear in patients with Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's is a motor disorder caused by the death of dopamine-producing cells in the brain. Patients have trouble with movement, tremors, and stiffness. When these patients are given a placebo they believe is a new Parkinson's drug, they often show real, measurable improvements in their motor function. Their tremors can lessen, they can move more freely. Brain scans of these patients show what's happening. The placebo triggers a massive release of dopamine in their brains. The brain is essentially compensating for its own deficit, just because it expects to get help. The placebo acts like a key, unlocking the brain's remaining dopamine reserves. It's a stunning example of how belief can directly alter the brain's chemistry and produce a real-world physical benefit. And the list of chemicals goes on. Scientists have found evidence that placebos can also influence other neurotransmitters like serotonin, which is involved in mood and depression. This might explain why placebo pills can be so effective in treating mild to moderate depression. They can also affect endocannabinoids, the body's own version of the chemicals found in cannabis. These are involved in mood, appetite, and pain sensation. The story is becoming more and more complex. The placebo effect isn't a single pathway. It's a whole symphony of chemical changes, orchestrated by the brain's beliefs and expectations. This modern technology has given us an even clearer picture. We don't have to guess what's happening in the brain anymore. We can watch it in real time. Using tools like functional magnetic resonance imaging fMRI and positron emission tomography PET, scientists can see which parts of the brain become active during a placebo response. These scans reveal a consistent pattern. When someone takes a placebo and expects a benefit, certain areas of their brain light up. One of these areas is the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of your brain right behind your forehead. It's the thinking part of the brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and forming expectations. This is where the belief starts. The prefrontal cortex seems to be the command center, sending signals to other parts of the brain to get ready for a change. These signals then travel to deeper, more emotional parts of the brain, like the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula. These areas are involved in processing emotions, pain, and our awareness of our own bodies. They seem to act as a bridge, translating the abstract belief, I'm going to feel better, into a real physical sensation. Finally, these areas connect to the brainstem and spinal cord, the places that can actually turn down the volume on pain signals or release those powerful endorphins and dopamine. So what we see in these scans is a top-down process. A belief formed in the highest, most evolved part of the brain trickles down to affect the most basic ancient machinery of pain and reward. It's a direct, visible pathway from mind to matter. Science can literally watch the placebo effect happen. We can see the parts of the brain that make it work, confirming that this is a genuine neurobiological event, not just wishful thinking. The effects aren't just confined to the brain. The brain is the command center, but it controls the entire body. The placebo effect can have far-reaching consequences for our physical health, well beyond just pain and mood. Take the immune system. For a long time, the idea that your mind could affect your immune system was seen as fringe science. But now we have solid evidence. In one type of experiment, researchers will condition people by repeatedly giving them a drug that suppresses the immune system, but they'll pair it with a specific taste, like green-colored strawberry milk. After a few rounds, the body learns the association. Then, the researchers give the person the strawberry milk alone, with no drug in it. And incredibly, the person's immune system shows suppression. Their body responds to the taste as if the drug were still there. The brain, triggered by the conditioned stimulus, sends signals down to the immune cells to stand down. This mind-body connection also works through hormones. The ritual of receiving care from a trusted professional is inherently comforting. It can reduce stress and anxiety. When you're less stressed, your body produces less of the stress hormone cortisol. High levels of cortisol over long periods can be damaging. It can increase inflammation, raise blood pressure, and impair healing. A placebo, by reducing stress, can lower cortisol levels. This can lead to real, measurable health benefits, like reduced inflammation or faster wound healing. It's not the sugar pill doing the work, it's the entire context of care and the belief that you're being helped that changes your body's hormonal environment to one that is more conducive to healing. We see this in other physical systems too. Studies on asthma have shown that a placebo inhaler can cause a patient's airways to relax, making it easier to breathe. It doesn't work as well as a real drug, but it does have a measurable effect. People given a placebo for high blood pressure can show a real drop in their readings. It's as if the brain, believing that help is on the way, can tell the heart to slow down and the blood vessels to relax. The placebo isn't just changing how we feel about our symptoms, it's changing the physical symptoms themselves. This leads to a really important point. The placebo isn't just the pill. The sugar pill itself has no power. The power comes from the context that surrounds it. The entire ritual of medicine is a powerful placebo. Think about the doctor, the white coat, the stethoscope, the diplomas on the wall. These are all symbols of expertise and authority. They build trust. A doctor who is warm, empathetic, and listens to you will produce a much stronger placebo effect than a doctor who is cold, rushed, and dismissive. The patient-doctor relationship is an active ingredient in healing. The trust and rapport you build creates a powerful expectation of a positive outcome. The characteristics of the placebo itself also matter. 2 sugar pills work better than 1. A capsule works better than a tablet. An injection works better than a pill. Why? Because we have a cultural belief that more intensive treatment is more powerful. Our minds create a hierarchy of medical interventions. A big, colorful, brand name pill feels more potent than a small, white, generic one. And studies show it produces a stronger placebo effect. Even the price matters. People told a placebo painkiller costs $10 per pill report more pain relief than people told the exact same pill costs 50 cents. The entire story we are told about a treatment shapes our response to it. It's not a simple switch that a pill flips. It's a complex psychological event shaped by our past experiences, our cultural beliefs, and the specific environment in which we receive care. The placebo effect isn't in the pill. It's in the symbolism, the ritual, and the human connection. Now, it's important to be realistic. The placebo effect has its limits. It's not a cure-all. A sugar pill cannot shrink a cancerous tumor. It cannot kill a virus or a bacterium. It cannot set a broken bone or unclog an artery. The placebo effect works primarily on symptoms that are regulated or mediated by the brain. Things like pain, nausea, fatigue, anxiety, depression, and some motor symptoms. It excels at changing our subjective experience of a condition. It can make you feel a lot better. But it usually can't fix the underlying biological cause of a disease like cancer or a severe infection. This is a critical distinction. The placebo effect is powerful, but it's not magic. It works by modulating the body's own self-regulating systems. It can't create new biological processes out of thin air. It can tap into the body's existing pharmacy, but it can't invent a new drug on the spot. So while it can be a powerful aid in healing, it is not a replacement for treatments that target the root cause of a disease. This brings up a tricky ethical question. For a long time, the placebo effect depended on deception. A doctor had to lie to a patient, giving them a fake treatment and telling them it was real. This creates a conflict with the modern medical principle of informed consent. Patients have a right to know what treatment they are receiving. So, is it ever okay to deceive a patient, even if it might help them? Most doctors and ethicists today would say no. In deceiving, a patient erodes the trust that is so essential to the doctor-patient relationship. And that trust, as we've seen, is a key part of what makes the placebo effect work in the first place. So if you destroy the trust, you might destroy the very effect you're trying to create. It seems like a dead end. If you can't deceive the patient, you can't use the placebo effect. But then, researchers discovered something completely mind-bending. It's called the open-label placebo. In these studies, researchers are completely honest with patients. They give them a bottle of pills and say something like, these are placebo pills, they contain no active medicine, they are made of an inert substance, like sugar. However, clinical studies have shown that placebo pills can produce real improvements in symptoms through mind-body self-healing processes. So, the patients know they are taking a fake pill. There is no deception, and logically, you would think it shouldn't work. But it does. In studies for conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, chronic low back pain, and fatigue, open-label placebos have been shown to produce significant relief. Patients who knowingly take sugar pills report feeling better than patients who receive no treatment at all. How on earth is this possible? Science is still figuring this one out, but there are a few leading theories. One idea is that the conditioning is so powerful that it can override our conscious knowledge. Even if your thinking brain knows the pill is fake, your automatic, conditioned brain still responds to the ritual of taking it. It hears the bell, and it salivates, whether you want it to or not. Another idea is that the ritual itself is therapeutic. The act of taking a pill every day is an act of self-care. It's a structured, hopeful routine. It makes you feel like you are actively doing something to manage your condition. This sense of agency and control might be enough to reduce stress and trigger the body's healing responses, regardless of what's in the pill. It's a way of giving your body permission to heal itself. You are consciously engaging the mind-body connection. The success of open-label placebos is a game changer. It suggests that we might be able to harness the power of the placebo effect honestly and ethically. We don't need to lie. We can make the placebo effect a conscious and collaborative part of medicine. We can tell patients, we are going to give you this drug to treat your condition, but we also want you to understand that the positive environment, the supportive relationship we have, and your own belief in your recovery are also powerful parts of your treatment. We can frame the placebo response not as a trick, but as the body's innate healing potential, something to be activated and encouraged. So, let's go back to the original question. Can science explain the placebo effect? The answer is a clear yes. It's not one single explanation, but a web of interconnected ones. Science can explain the psychology. It's about the power of expectation, where our brains create the reality they anticipate. And it's about the power of conditioning, where our bodies learn to associate the rituals of medicine with the feeling of relief. Science can explain the neurochemistry. It's about the brain releasing its own powerful drugs like endorphins to fight pain and dopamine to create a sense of reward and well-being. It's a tangible chemical event. Science can see the proof. Brain imaging lets us watch the process unfold. We can see the thinking parts of the brain sending signals to the feeling and regulating parts of the brain, a clear top-down cascade from belief to biology. Science can measure the physical results. It's not just a feeling. It's measurable changes in hormones, immune responses, heart rate, and blood pressure. The mind is directly influencing the body's machinery, and science is even beginning to explain the most mysterious parts, like how an honest, open-label placebo can still work. It's pushing us to see the ritual of care itself as a form of treatment. The placebo effect is no longer a strange footnote in a medical textbook. It's a central part of understanding what it means to heal. It shows us that the mind and body are not separate entities. They are in constant, intimate conversation. Our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions are not just abstract experiences. They are biological events that can change our physiology in profound ways. What science is revealing is that the placebo effect isn't a failure of medicine. It's not what happens when a real drug doesn't work. In a way, it's the foundation of all medicine. Every drug, every treatment, every surgery is given with a side of placebo. The effectiveness of any treatment is a combination of the active ingredient and the patient's placebo response. A good doctor doesn't just prescribe a pill. A good doctor fosters hope, builds trust, and creates an environment of healing. They are, whether they know it or not, masters at activating the placebo effect. The placebo effect is a window into our own built-in capacity for recovery. It's the proof that within our own brains and bodies lies an incredible power to soothe pain, lift mood, and promote healing. It's not magic, it's biology. It's the amazing, complex, and beautiful way we are wired. And science is finally, piece by piece, showing us how it all works.